350,000 for a gold necklace and bracelet with emeralds, rubies, and diamonds, and 300,000 for a gold pendant with diamonds, rubies, and 39. Okay, I could go on and on, okay? Siguro ang sagot niyo dyan sa akin, kung mayaman naman talaga sila, kung pera nila nila yon attorney, hindi ba okay lang naman yun, di ba? Kasalanan ba yun na mayaman siya? Ang problema nga doon, hindi naman, ang kayamanan na yon ay kayamanan ninyo na ginamit niya para mabili niya lahat ng mga royalty type na jewelry na yan. You know, Imelda fancied themselves as the monarchy, the royals of the Philippines. Kaya nga, she even tried to have Amy Marcos and Irene Marcos married off to royalty, you know. She courted Prince Charles, no, for Amy Marcos. Pero si Amy, ano rin yan, no? She's the naughty child, no? Kasi nag-elope siya. Nag-elope siya with Tommy Manotoc na may asawa ng iba nung nag-elope sila. Okay? So galit sila for a while to Amy, no? Pero yun yung plano ng mga Marcos, that they will be known as the Filipino royalty. That's why look at all the jewelry that Imelda bought, no? Yung mga jewelry ng mga royalties of old Europe, no? Of Catherine the Great, you know, yung mga Russian royalty, binili niya yan, no? Nung pumunta ako sa Smithsonian the other year, makikita niyo doon yung pink diamond, no? Tapos, doon sa caption ng pink diamond, nakalagay, it was previously owned by Imelda Marcos. Alam niyo yung feeling ko? Ang feeling ko ay nahiya ako. Sabi ko, papaano na in one of the most important institutions of cultural exposition, which is the Smithsonian, they have a special exhibit on a diamond that was owned by the richest royalties of Europe and India. And one of them was Imelda. And all the while, Filipinos are dying from poverty, from lack of food, from treatable diseases, no? And the worst thing about it is they used Filipinos' wealth to buy these riches for themselves. Kasi mamaya, sa money laundering course natin, malalaman ninyo, this is one of the ways you launder dirty money. You buy jewelry, no? Kasi jewelry is very movable. Kaya nga, they fled into exile in Hawaii, nakalimot na sila dun sa mga yung mga 3,000 pairs of shoes niya, iniwanan na ni Imelda kasi mas importante yung jewelry at binalot niya. Saan niya binalot yung mga jewelry niya? Tuwang-tuwa pa siya, di ba, sa Kingmaker, no? Na naloko niya tayo. Kasi ibinalot niya yung mga jewelry niya dun sa mga diaper ng kanyang mga grandchildren. Nandoon, nakatago dun sa diaper boxes. Makikita niyo yung photo nila nung nag-arrive sila sa Hawaii, at dala-dala ng mga yaya, yung mga diaper boxes. Yun pala yung mga jewelry ni Imelda na ibinili niya sa pamamagitan ng kayamanan ng sambayan ng Filipino. So now, we go here. I ask you, given all the sins of Ferdinand and Imelda Marcos, pero naman attorney, should a son really bear responsibility for the sins of the father? Okay? Actually, that question should be revised. Dapat, ang itanong nila, does a son bear responsibility for the sins not only of the father, but also the mother? This is because the Marcos regime was a conjugal dictatorship. by Bongbong's parents. Like Mijares testified in his book, no? What's funny about this question is that it necessarily admits, by implication, that Bongbong's parents, Ferdinand and Imelda, did all those wrongdoings. Yet, aims to portray Bongbong Marcos as an innocent bystander, while the parents looted the public coffers, stashed this in Swiss banks and elsewhere, and fought lawsuits to keep them. So, the simple answer, my simple answer to this question is, it depends. For the question is not quite as simple as Bongbong Marcos and his supporters would have us think, because it's not answerable by a simple yes or no. We have to consider the following nuances to this complex issue. Number one, what are the acts of each of the father and mother? Number two, what are the acts of the son? Number three, what are the acts of the father and mother to which the son is complicit? Number four, the son profiting from his parents' wrongdoings, which is a form of complicity too. And number five, the acts of the parents that the son is falsely denying or spinning or whitewashing is another form of complicity that compels us to revisit and examine history to know the truth. Later in this lecture, I intend to answer this question for each, hindi lang para kay Bongbong, for each of the Marcoses' children, Bongbong, Aimee, and Irene. But in order to answer this question, we need to provide proper context and thus enable us to understand the various complicated aspects of this issue. Therefore, we have to go back into the true history of the Marcos regime. The Marcos regime can be divided into four timelines. Okay, pre-martial law period, martial law period, what they call the Fourth Republic, and then ending with the EDSA People Power Revolution in February 1986. I want to focus on a few highlights. Note how long Marcos was able to extend his presidency from December 1973, when his second term should have ended under the 1935 Constitution. If it wasn't for EDSA, People Power Revolution in 1986, he would have been dictator president for life, with his family firmly installed as a ruling national political dynasty. In studying this history, I gained a few insights. Marcos did not waste time to implement a ruthless program of action that consisted of the two-pronged strategy of number one, consolidating power, and number two, accumulating wealth. According to former Senate President Jovito Salonga in his book Presidential Plunder, the Marcoses started raiding the government coffers barely 2 years into the first term of President Ferdinand Marcos in 1965, with his wife Imelda using intelligence funds to finance her foreign trips as First Lady and stashing part of the money in Swiss banks. Another insight is the immediate way Marcos implemented this strategy makes one wonder if he had planned it all from the beginning. from when he decided to run for president. His various actions that complemented each other suggest he deliberately planned to enrich himself and his family through his office. And he realized that the longer he remained in power, the more wealthy he and his family could become. Therefore, he had to strategize on how he could stay in power as long as possible. These, my friends, are the major marks of the Marcos regime. Makita nyo dyan, no, sa slide na yan. On the left side are the Marcoses' political and economic goals. No? In the middle column, yun yung mga instruments that na ginamit nila in order to achieve their goals. So, yung political goal nila was consolidation of personal power. Paano nila na nakamit ito? Paano nilang na-achieve yun? Well, first of all, Marcos declared martial law, which then became, the mode of government, which is then known as constitutional authoritarianism. No? Kasi pinalagay niya dun sa constitution na pinagawa niya dun sa mga tuta niya, dun sa CONCO noong 1973, na maging constitutional authoritarianism yung gobyerno natin para ma-accept natin na siya ay diktador. No? And they also exploited padrino politics on a national scale. Alam niyo yung padrino politics, di ba? Sa mga local governments ninyo. No? Sino yung padrino ninyo? Sino yung naging ninong ninyo? Usually, pag makuha ninyo yung mayor ninyo o kaya yung governor ninyo na maging padrino ng inyong mga anak, ay as long as those people are in power, ay akala ninyo meron na kayong malalapitan kung nahihirapan kayo. Yun, yung mga local padrino. Parang ang ginawa ng mga Marcos, they instituted this on a national basis through their cronies. No? Ano yung economic goal ng mga Marcos? Accumulation of personal wealth on the left side. No? So what were their tools? Graft and corruption. The deeper I delve, alam ko na to, no? Pero when I had to review their history again, and as you can see from my list of authorities and sources, no, it was a lot. I read a lot. 6 weeks, halos wala akong tulog, hindi ako nagmamalaki. Gusto ko lang ipahiwatig sa inyo that this is how much I care about our people. I stayed up till 4 or 5 in the morning to read, para pag may nagtanong sa akin, attorney, ano ang supporting authority mo dyan? Masasabi ko sa iyo kung saan ko nakuha yan. Okay? And one of my insights is, I don't think the Marcoses really understand what graft and corruption means. Because to them, it's acceptable to enrich yourself while you're in government. In fact, ang saying nila, what are we in power for? So to their mind, it's perfectly normal to use your public government position to enrich yourself and to empower yourself. So I think we have to send the Marcoses to re-education school on democracy, what it means, what graft and corruption means. Kung magsalita pa si Imelda, parang hindi niya naiintindihan. Kasi actually, natawa ako dyan. Pag binabasa ko, nanonood ako ng mga documentary, si Imelda, she runs her mouth. No? Itong mga Marcos, yung asawa niya, na intelligenteng lawyer, at saka yung mga anak nila, ano kaya iniisip nila? Kasi itong inay nila ay nagmamalaki. Oh yes, we own everything in the Philippines. In fact, we own this. Linista niya, yung lahat ng mga kayari-arihan nila. Kaya sabi tuloy ni Amy, oh my gosh, my mom has gone insane. Don't listen to her. Tumatawa pa si Amy nung sinabi niya ito. But in fact, it is true. Kasi Imelda, by running her mouth, by trying to brag about all they own, that was the proof used by the PCGG to run after their cronies and their ill-gotten wealth. Okay? Oh, tapos yung status edifice building ni Imelda. And we could not afford it, so anong ginawa nila? They had to borrow from the World Bank, IMF, and all these international capital institutions. Anong effects? On the right side columns, all the bad effects are carried by the Filipinos. So yung sa the Marcoses were able to monopolize political power. Anong nangyari? Human rights violations. Sino ang nag-carry niyan? Filipino people. There was insurgency kasi nag-umpisa ng mag-protest yung mga kapwa nating Pilipino, no? Hindi na nila matake, no? And as a result of that, there was a lot of instability, no? And then on the economic side, recession. Sino ang nag-suffer? Filipino. Hyperinflation. Sino ang nag-suffer? Ang mga masa. High unemployment, sino ang nag-suffer? Ang mga masang Pilipino. Bankruptcy, sino ang nagbabayad hanggang ngayon sa mga utang ng mga Marcos na ginamit nila at dineposit sa mga Swiss bank accounts nila? Ang mga masang Pilipino. Sino ang namulubi? Ang Pilipino. Okay. I will not discuss this. But if you want a list of this, you can request them from MASA, okay? But I just want to discuss some highlights. Hindi lang ito ang nangyari, by the way, during this. Ito ay mga hand-picked ko na mga events na nangyari that will help you understand how the Marcoses achieved those two goals that I mentioned, the monopoly of political power and the accumulation of ill-gotten wealth, no? So you will see from this list of events that Marcos wins a second term amid widespread cheating allegations. That was when all hell broke loose. There were widespread protests, which Marcoses tried unsuccessfully to quell and stop through the use of extreme physical violence against the protesters and his critics and political opponents, inclusive of their assassination. Na-experience ko yan. Na-experience ko yan. Freshman college student pa ako. I was a student leader in the College of Arts and Sciences at UP, and I was supposed to speak at the first largest student demonstration after the imposition of martial law in front of the Ministry of Education and Culture building in Intramuros, no? Na-experience ko paano pag winater canon ka, parang nabagsakan ka ng building. Kasi ganoon kalakas yung force ng water cannon. So mababagsak ka naman, no? Pag bumagsak ka, yung mga militar at mga pulis at mga tag at saka mga paramilitary henchmen ng mga Marcos, doon na sila. Alam mo, estudyante lang kami, mga high school at mga college students lang kami. Pero itong mga pulis at militar, they had guns, they have bototes, they will run after us. Pag ikaw ay nag-slide dahil very slippery na yung mga streets dahil nga wina-water cannon ka na, no? At natumba ka, ay lagot ka, patay ka na. Kasi ang gagawin nila, they will beat you to death. They will crack your head and your skull without pity. That is human nature. Okay? This is possible to happen. Sabihin ninyo, attorney, hindi naman siguro magagawa yun ni Bongbong Marcos. Kasi si Bongbong, look at him. He's such a nice guy. Very soft-spoken. We don't think he's capable of this. Okay, all right. Bongbong has no guts to do that himself, but the one who will do it for him are the henchmen and the cronies who are still with them up to this day, including, in addition, the younger people who are their loyalists. And this, if you haven't learned anything about human nature, learn this from me, who has seen killings and water cannons and being chased in the streets of Manila. I'm running for fear of my own life. Kung hindi pa ninyo na-experience nyo, hindi nyo maiintindihan ito. No? This is the truth. People, even educated people who look nice, dress nice, speak nice, who go to church, go to mass, say the rosary, nagpapapicture pa sila, di ba? Yan ang mga picture na parating nasa dyaryo. Yung mga Marcos family na kalahod sa simbahan, nagdadasal, nagro-rosaryo, nagre-receive ng Holy Communion, okay? Yung mga taong ganoon, ano ang pinababayaan nilang gawin ng kanilang mga bodyguards, mga henchmen, mga militar, mga thugs, mga pulis nila? Yung mga pulis na yon, militar, thugs, they, kahit na may mga anak, mga asawa, they will not hesitate to kill your own child, your mother, your sister, rape your sister, torture your brother, kill your father and brother. Okay? Because the reality of human nature is this. When you believe you are doing something out of loyalty for your leader, you are capable of doing something as barbaric as that. So, diba, nasa Biblia din yan? Beware the wolves in sheep's clothing. Oh, na-impress kayo sa mga shiny jewelry ni Imelda. You know, yung mga Oxford and Princeton kuno education of their kids. And you believe they're not capable of making this happen again. Let this history tell you otherwise. Pag may pattern of behavior, ito in criminal law, we were taught this. What are one of the proofs you can present in court as to the intent or motive of the accused? And one of them is pattern of behavior. Okay? And here we are, I'm presenting to you, not only me, but thousands and thousands of other people who live under martial law, telling you this is the pattern of the behavior of the Marcoses. This can happen to you too. Okay? I'm using a known and accepted method to prove a truth. Historical pattern of behavior. It's up to you if you don't want to believe it at the risk of your democracy and your life. Okay? I will continue. So, nag-win si Marcos second term amidst widespread accusations of cheating. Ang ginawa niya, he rinedtag niya yung mga opposers niya again. Inaresto niya, tinorture niya, pinabayaan niya yung mga henchmen na patayin yung mga opposers niya. And then he manipulates Congress to convene a constitutional convention to revise the Philippine Constitution. Bakit? Kasi under the original constitution natin, 1935 Constitution, a president can only serve up to a second term. So, ang ginawa niya, okay, the Constitution doesn't allow me to be president past my second term, I will change it. So he convened what we call then na CON-CON, okay? Short namin sa Constitutional Convention, pero in fact, CON-CON kasi con people sila. They were conning the Filipino people because in fact, what happened was Marcos was able to manipulate the Constitutional Convention to allow him to serve beyond the term limit imposed by the original Constitution. Tapos, meron pang mga nangyari during the CONCON na nakakatuwa. Merong CONCON delegate, ang pangalan niya si Quintero. No? Naging whistleblower siya. Sabi niya, si Imelda daw, at saka yung ibang mga cronies, ay nag-bribe dun sa mga delegates ng CONCON. And Imelda was the source of the payola money used to bribe the delegates to pass the constitution that Marcos wanted, no, to replace the 1935 constitution with. And note that it was Senator Ninoy Aquino who exposed Marcos's secret plan to unjustly put the entire Philippines under martial law, which could explain, among others, Marcos's special grudge against Ninoy. No? Yung secret plan ni Marcos, may pangalan doon. Yung pangalan niya, Oplan Sagittarius. Sagittarius, no? At yung source niya ay isa sa mga, military officers who have a conscience. Okay, as regards accumulation of personal wealth, you will see later in our Money Laundering 101 segment of this lecture how barely into the second year of his first term, or in 1967, the Marcoses were already depositing millions of dollars into U.S. bank accounts. Okay. Mamaya may slide ako to show you, year by year, kung magkano yung sahod ng isang presidente ng Pilipinas nung kapanahunan ni Marcos. Okay? And you will see there na it's not possible for Marcos to have tens of millions of dollars to deposit in U.S. banks on the second year of his first term in 1966. 1966-67, nagdi-deposit na siya ng tens of millions of dollars in U.S. banks. And they discovered that there were at least 15 U.S. bank accounts that they put up. No? All right. And then note that on the third year of his first term in 1968, at early in 1968, in around April or May of 1968, that's when they started setting up the Swiss bank accounts. Hindi na tens of millions of dollars ang dinideposit nila noon. Hundreds of millions of dollars na. Third year pa lang, 1968, yun na ang dinideposit nila sa Swiss. Saan nila kinuha yun? Saan? Hindi pa nila ninakaw yung Golden Buddha ni Rojas noon. Nangyari yun later pa. So saan nangyari? And remember that under Philippine constitutional law, that a president is not allowed to run a business or to perform a profession. He is mandated to focus on being president. So yung mga sinasabi ng mga Marcos, our father had a very lucrative legal career. And what are the years where they showed that Marcos earned 11 million pesos? Was during the time he was already president. Nung hindi siya allowed, paano siyang nag-private practice nun? Wala mang mga news reports nung paano siyang nag-private practice. At walang mga reports kung ano ang mga businesses sila. Okay, let's say, meron silang konting farms, Okay, pero makikita ninyo mamaya sa isang slide na papakita ko kung magkano lang naman yung ikinita nila dun sa mga farm nila sa Leyte at sa Ilocos. Hindi po nag-a-add sa hundreds of millions of dollars yon. So saan nila kinuha yon? Yon ang naging basehan ng gobyerno ng Pilipinas later on in the post-Marcos regime for the definition of what is ill-gotten wealth. And ill-gotten wealth is thus defined as any income or resources or assets that go beyond what should have been the lawful income of the government officer involved. Okay? Klaro yun, di ba? Okay. Now, in first term pa yan, note the two first things that Marcos does. Is number one, he issues a executive order ordering the building of the costly CCP, Cultural Center of the Philippines. And number two, he had his wife Imelda appointed to take in charge of the project. He would also later appoint Imelda as governor of Metro Manila, which further positioned them to succeed in amassing ill-gotten wealth. In 2019, it was what Imelda did as Metro Manila governor that got her convicted for 7 counts of graft, for which she now stands to be imprisoned for a minimum of 40 years. That is, unless her son, Bongbong Marcos, gets to be elected as president in the upcoming elections. So itong si Imelda, no, she took over the building of the CCP. Gusto ni Imelda maging showcase yung CCP para sa 1969 presidential elections, including yung CCP complex nga yan, no? Kasama na yon yung mga MIFF, Manila International Film Festival Building, no? At saka pinagawa niya yung Coconut Palace, di ba? Pinagawa niya yon para sa pagdating ni John Paul II. Di ba si John Paul II, santo na yan, di ba? Anong ginawa ni John Paul II nung dumating siya sa Pilipinas? Nakita niya na napaka-luxurious nung Coconut Palace na pinabuild ni Imelda for him to stay in. Pero mismo si Pope John Paul II umayaw. Sabi niya, "This is too luxurious even for me. I am so sorry, Imelda, I cannot stay there." So inayawan niya yan. Yung MIFF, pinamadalian niya ang pagbibuild noon. At the risk of the health and safety of the workers. 24/7, walang tigil yan yung construction. So anong nangyari, ano? May bumagsak na scaffolding. 169 workers fell into quick drying cement. Pero dahil nagmamadili sila, sabi ni Imelda, we cannot stop construction. The ugly secret of MIFF is there are bodies buried there because they could not take them out anymore, because it would delay the finishing of the construction. This is the mother of the presidential candidate, Bongbong Marcos. Okay? And there are various proofs that this happened. Yung mga kamag-anak ng mga trabahador na namatay doon sa MIFF building, they were even prevented from viewing the site kasi nagtayo si Imelda ng yung mga barriers para hindi mo makita kung anong nangyari doon. Ano nangyari? They just built upon it, no? At saka yung mga squatter who were the workers, you know, whenever she has foreign visitors visiting the Philippines, nagpatayo siya ng mga plywood to cover all the shanties, yung mga kubo-kubo ng mga trabahador niya, para hindi makita ng mga foreign visitors ang katotohanan na here is all the luxury that Imelda is building, and yet here's the truth behind the whitewashed walls. This is the Marcos regime, the hypocrisy of the Marcos regime, sacrificing the welfare of their own people for their own ends. Another thing I want you to note from this timeline is Di ba sabi ni Marcos, he declared martial law to quell the communist threat? Pero you know that the Communist Party of the Philippines, including the New People's Army and the Muslim separatist movement, they did not exist before the Marcos regime. They only came into being because of Marcos. So, which caused what? No? So, ano nangyari? Because of the oppressive nature of the Marcos regime, nag-start ng magprotesta ang mga kababayan natin. No? Ito yung mga manggagawa, yung mga magsasaka, yung mga fisherman, no? Yung mga ordinaryong tao. No? So, dahil ayaw silang pakinggan ng mga Marcos, ang iba sa kanila, naging komunista na. So, ang ginawa ni Marcos, may komunista na tayo. I'll declare martial law to quell that for peace and order. So, remember the different kinds of fallacious arguments, right? You know, yung begging the question, di ba? You know, so martial law was instituted to quell the communist regime when in fact the communist regime did not yet exist before the Marcos regime, and therefore Marcos used the very same thing that he claims and alleges and wants you to presume happened, which is that there was a communist threat that was after Philippine peace and order, na siya naman ang gumawa nun. No? It was his regime that created the conditions for these insurgency movements. And then he used what he created to create martial law. Okay? So, ang tanong ko sa inyo, tama ba na madeklara ang martial law? There are quite a few things happen, but we don't have the time to discuss all of them. What I want you to focus on is the end of the Marcos's second term was supposed to be December 1973, which would also have been the end of his presidency because, like we said, the 1935 Constitution only allowed him a 2 4-year term, okay? However, in September 1972, he proclaimed PD 1081, which is a little more than a year before his second term should have ended. So in-anticipate na niya, mag-i-end na yung term ko. So anong ginawa niya? Nag-declare siya ng martial law, effectively extending his term indefinitely. Kasi ang declaration ng martial law is indefinite. Hindi niya binigyan ng time, ng deadline. Ano? So, and he would only be removed from the presidency in 1986 as a result of People Power Revolution. Ngayon, makikita niyo sa slide na yan, hindi ko man masabi sa inyo kung kailan exactly dineclare ni Marcos ang martial law. Bakit? Kasi they were very secretive on when, in fact, Marcos signed PD 1081. Bakit? Kasi they were cheating, no? They wanted to bolster the reasons to support the declaration of martial law. So, ang ginamit nila si Enrile, no? Ang isang rason na binigay ni Marcos sa pagdideklara ng martial law ay yung assassination attempt kuno kay Juan Ponce Enrile, no? And years later, JPE himself would admit na fake assassination attempt yun, na nakisama siya kay Marcos para madeklara ni Marcos ang martial law. Kasi nung nangyari yung fake assassination attempt, hindi nangyari yun until the day after actually sinay ni Marcos ang martial law. So paano mong gawin na rason ang isang event kung nangyari siya after the signing of the law that you allege was instigated by that event? So they had to fake the actual declaration of martial law. No? In-announce lang nila actually on the day after yung assassination attempt, yung fake assassination attempt ni Juan Ponce Enrile. On September 23 lang nila in-announce ang implementation of martial law when in fact there are rumors na sinay ni Marcos ang PD 81, 1081 on September 17, between September 17 to September 21. Tapos yung fake assassination attempt kay Enrile was September 22. At kailan nila ipinahayag sa mundo na Philippines was already martial law? September 23. Okay? Tapos si Marcos did not appear on television to confirm this himself until 7 p.m. on the evening of September 23. Okay? So, makita nyo dyan, 1981, linif ko ni Marcos ang martial law. Pero ang katotohanan, he did not relinquish his powers. In fact, he retained the power to issue decrees and make arrests, and he practically remained a law unto himself. No? Yung presidential decrees were running at the same time as a puppet legislature was issuing laws. Okay, what are the marks of the 14-year martial law? Ang haba, di ba? I don't know of any history of any nation na ganun kahaba ang martial law nila. But two things: unprecedented graft and corruption and accumulation of ill-gotten wealth, and unprecedented human rights violations that targeted political opponents, student activists, journalists, religious workers, farmers, and others who opposed the Marcos. We come to timeline 3. And again, I will only focus on certain highlights. In the so-called Fourth Republic period, Fourth Republic yan kasi based yan sa mga kung ano yung age ng constitution under which the administration existed, and we had several versions of the constitution. So kay Marcos, Fourth Republic period yan. Marcos gets himself elected for a third and fourth term. Okay, so dapat 2 terms lang siya, na-extend niya ng third and fourth. In other words, he gained 14 more years beyond his lawful term as president. Number 2 significant event during this timeline is the assassination of opposition leader Ninoy Aquino. And then, Escalante massacre happened. Remember Escalante massacre, di ba? Pinag-usapan natin yan, with that boy in Negros Occidental, si Joel, no? The malnourished boy who eventually died. Tapos, hindi na matake ng sambayan ng Pilipino. Naging naging widespread na mga protest rallies against Marcos. And Marcos also amped up the violence exerted on Marcos critics and protesters. Pero, nag-tone down lang siya kasi sinabihan siya ni President Reagan na hindi ko yata gusto yung nangyayari dyan sa poder mo, Ferdinand, no? You're not looking good, your favorable rating is plunging. So, anong ginawa niya? Anong ginawa ni Marcos? He declared snap elections in order to appease the US government, including the Filipino people, to give a kind of veneer of legitimacy to his administration, which was already plunging in popularity. So nag-declare siya ng snap elections. Pero ano naman nangyari ng snap elections? Eh di syempre nag-cheat sila. Yun naman ang alam ng mga Marcos ay mag-cheat. No? Pero meron tayong mga kababayan na may konsensya who stood up for the truth. And some of them were the 35 COMELEC computer workers who walked out in protest over rampant election cheating by Marcos and his supporters that they witnessed themselves. Kasi nakikita nila, no? Hindi nagtatali yung numbers na ini-input nila dun sa mga computers. So nandun sila sa batasang pambansa, no? You will see this. You will see videos of this. You will see pictures of these brave 35 COMELEC computer workers. Nag-stand up sila sabay-sabay at nag-walk out sila in protest to tell the whole world, we're not going to be part of this. This is BS. The Marcoses are cheating again in this election. They're cheating Cory Aquino, who was running against Marcos. So, pero despite of this, the tuta na batasang pambansa declared Marcos as the winner, thus giving him a 4th term. Okay? So, nako, nag-alsa na mga sambayan ng Pilipino, no? Pero si Cory Aquino, she was afraid of the violence that will happen, na may patayan na. So, ang sinabi niya sa atin, let us have a non-violent civil disobedience campaign. Okay? So, doon na kami, nasa UP College of Law na ako noon. Ang ginawa namin as part of our non-violent civil disobedience campaign is nag-boycott kami ng classes. At kami, dahil senior law student na kami, under the rules, under the bar rules, we are now allowed to appear in court as long as we have a law professor or a lawyer who has passed the bar, who's now taken his oath beside us, mentoring us while we appear in court. So ang ginawa namin, nag-form kami ng paralegal aid group kasi nag-ano na kami, no? Naglalabasan na mga Pilipino sa EDSA, pero in the early days of the revolution, hindi pa safe, no? Yung latter part, malaking piyesta na yan, no? Okay lang yon. Pero nung mga unang part ng EDSA revolution, it was still very dangerous. Kasi pag lumabas ka doon, mapipick up ka ng militar. Okay? Mapipick up ka, madidetain ka, tapos madidisappear ka na. So alam namin na yun ang tactic nila. Anong ginawa namin? Kami mga senior law students na nag-form ng paralegal aid, no? We stayed 24/7 in the streets of Manila. Natulog kami sa bare cement, bare concrete. Kung meron kaming makitang karton, yun ang ginawa namin na bed. Pero natulog kami sa mga streets of Manila kasi takot kami na pag may na-pick up, wala kami doon para tulungan yung citizen na yon. So ano ang strategy namin? Pag may nakita kaming pinipick up ng militar o police, ang gagawin namin, we will bodily hug that person. Okay? We will try to prevent that person being put in a van or a car or a jeepney. Kasi pag nawala na yung taong yun, hindi mo na yun makikita. No? Ngayon, syempre, ipupush kami ng police o militar. No, they will shove us away para makuha nila yung taong ito at madidisappear na yung taong yun. So ang next in our program was we will file a writ of habeas corpus in the courts to require whoever is holding this person to produce the body of this person para at least naman kami ay ma-assure na buhay pa yung taong yon. So yon ang ginawa namin nung People's Power Revolution. Okay? Pero ng People's Power Revolution. Okay, I'm gonna go to that now. Nung una, 1,500, 1,500 pa lang yung mga tao sa streets, no? Tapos biglang, wow, naging 50,000, ano? So, nung nakita na ni Enrile, ni Ramos, naku, patay tayo. Paano natin papatayin ng lahat ng mga taong ito? No? Tapos si Cardinal Sin, you know, so si Enrile at si Ramos, nag-defect na sila. Hindi mananalo si Marcos. We have to jump ship, okay? So nag-barricade sila dun sa Camp Crame, ano? Tapos si Cardinal Sin, nagsabi na rin siya through his priests in all of the churches of the Philippines to support the rebel military leaders kasi si Cardinal Sin, matinik din yan. Alam niya na without the help of the military, the Filipino people are still in danger. So Cardinal Sin asked to support the rebel military leaders. The Filipino people went there to protect Ramos and Enrile. Ano? Tapos, so parang naging domino effect na, no? Until Marcos was forced to resign. And he only resigned, by the way, nung sinabi ng US, game over, you have to leave. Okay? Kasi nagpa-party pa sila doon sa Malacanang. Kasi nga pinoclaim siya na siya ang winner, no? Nagpa-party sila. Kung panunuorin niyo yung video, In Search of the Marcos Millions, makikita ninyo na sa dining table sa Malacanang, makikita niyo yung evidence ng kanilang celebration kasi akala nila talagang, you know, that they will still win and triumph over their own people, even though they see their people are already protesting against them. You will see caviar, bowls of caviar on the dining table. You will also see bottles of champagne, you know. And then the rest is history, no? That the Marcoses fled to Hawaii, but here are all the constitutional and human rights violated by the Marcoses. Lahat ng constitutional and human rights of Filipinos were violated by the Marcoses. Walang exception dyan. Lahat yan binviolate nila. Freedom of speech and of the press, assembly and association, against unlawful arrest, detentions, imprisonment, and extrajudicial killing. Sino ang alam nyo na nag-extrajudicial killing? Sa panahon ni Marcos, 6,800 people were extrajudicially killed by the combined forces of the military and the police. And that is the record for 21 years. So as bad as that sounds, all of those thousands of Filipinos who were killed, consider this. 12,000 Filipinos were killed during Duterte's reign for only 5 years. 12,000. Ang iba sa inyo dyan, I bet, you know a young person who was extrajudicially killed by the police under Oplan Tokang, accused as being a drug dealer or a drug addict. No? Yung drug addiction, smoke screen lang yan for the problems of society. No? So ang kailangan na solusyon ay hindi patayin yung drug user o yung drug dealer. Ang kailangan ay reformation at rehabilitation. At kahit na yung drug dealer, kahit criminal pa yan, meron din yung rights under constitutional law. No? Under criminal law, they have the right to trial and be found guilty. Pero hindi. Pinagmamalaki pa ni Duterte na papatayin niyang lahat ang mga durugista na yan. At ginawa niya yan. And right now, he is being investigated by the International Criminal Court. No? And the wheels of justice, I know, they move slowly. I know that because I'm a lawyer. But sooner or later, the wheels of justice will catch up through the persistence and perseverance of people of good conscience in the legal fields and activists and all those people who are fighting for our human rights, even under extreme situations as this. Okay? And so one of the reasons why Duterte needs Bongbong Marcos to succeed and be president is so that he could escape. Bongbong Marcos, he will rely on Bongbong Marcos to protect him and to pardon his mother who is already convicted of a crime, hindi lang once, 7 times. So these are the reasons, some of the reasons why Bongbong Marcos needs to be president from the perspective of the Marcoses. Ito na yung data. Many of you have seen this in our webinar last month. I'm not going to read that, but just take a look at all of that now. All right? Human rights violations, the number of media outlets closed. Ibig sabihin yan yung mga newspapers, both local and national, all the TV stations, radio stations closed. At anong nangyari dun sa mga newspapers and TV and radio stations closed? Inangkin ng mga cronies ni Marcos. And also Marcos, the Marcoses secretly owned those, sequestered them, and appropriated them to themselves. Okay? Legislative abuse, crony, ayan. May mga figures dyan, if you're a figure person. Here's the slide that shows what are the lawful salaries and income of the Marcoses, what should have been only their lawful salaries. Ano? All in all, with everything counted, kahit na yung mga fake na allegations ng mga Marcos on legal practice, more than 11 million pesos, okay? That should have only amounted in total into 2,318,583.33 in salaries. And then everything included should have only amounted to 16 million pesos. 16 million pesos, hindi po dollars. So saan po nang galing yung hundreds of millions of dollars na dineposit nila sa Swiss banks? Okay? Okay. Obviously, I'm not gonna read all of that, but I'm only showing this to you as this is just a list of the major proofs and judicially acknowledged recognitions of Marcos' ill-gotten wealth. Okay? If you want a copy of this, oh, and by the way, actually, hindi naman po sa pagmamalaki, pero nagmamalaki na rin po ako. I acknowledge the help of former PCGG Commissioner Ruben Carranza. Kanina lang pong umaga dito sa States, kaibigan po pala sila ng isang kaibigan ko sa Facebook. So sabi ko, pwede pong, please thank Ruben Carranza for me because his various interviews and videos have been very useful to me in preparing this lecture. And then it dawned upon me, I created these 2 slides, no, listing all of the cases that are proofs to all of the Marcoses and all the Marcos loyalists who say, anong proof? Anong proof ninyo na may ill-gotten wealth ang mga Marcos? Ito po ang proof namin, okay? Linista ko dyan, okay? I went through and read through tens, even mga siguro I read around 80 cases, no, yung mga judicial decisions, and this is what I selected as, you know, these are the proofs of Marcos ill-gotten wealth. Hindi lang tayo, 14 decisions of the Supreme Court Sandigan Bayan Court of Appeals, 14 in the Philippines, 5 in the United States, 3 in Switzerland, and 1 in Singapore. At ang Singapore, the significance of Singapore is Singapore has a very strict bank secrecy policy. Hindi basta yan nagre-reveal na yeah, may ill-gotten wealth. We acknowledge there's ill-gotten wealth by the Marcoses. Pero ayan sila, they acknowledge that there is ill-gotten wealth. Okay? Ngayon, kung walang ill-gotten wealth, saan nakuha yung $4 million na recover na ng PCGG? These are the figures of their recoveries as of 2021, September. So September last year, yeah, okay? Almost 174 billion pesos or $4 billion of the estimated Marcos's $5 to $10 billion ill-gotten wealth. If this is not ill-gotten wealth, then what is it? And then on top of that, yung mismong mga cronies ng mga Marcos, including Roberto Benedicto, confessed to holding assets, properties, companies, real estate for the Marcoses. Lahat ng mga taong yan, Jose Campos, Rolando Gapud, ayan, etc. up to the end, nag-confess yan in court, in testimony before the courts. Nagtotoo po na kami ay ginamit ng mga Marcos to acquire ill-gotten wealth at ito po ang mga assets that we are holding for them. And many of these people, in order to escape criminal penalties, nag-compromise yan. They compromise with the Philippine government in exchange for their testimony. You know, apart from Roberto Benedicto, I would say that yes, you know, that is a rational scheme because they're really small fish, no? They're small fish compared to the big fish, which are the Marcoses. Okay? Okay. Yung mga pag sinasabi ni Bongbong Marcos, well, anong pruweba? Wala pang na-prove against sa amin. There has nothing been proved against us. Di ba? Madalas sabihin ni Bongbong Marcos yan. Oh, makita nyo dyan. There are no less than 9 outstanding judgments against them by our very own courts. Hindi ko na sinali dyan yung mga judgments against them in other countries. Pero sinali ko dyan yung judgment ng Supreme Court of Honolulu kasi yun, very important yun. Kasi it took a Hawaiian court to acknowledge that yes, there were human rights violations during the Marcos regime, and yes, we will penalize the Marcoses because they have assets in the United States upon which the victims can now enforce the judgment. And it was a history-making judgment. They adjudged the Marcoses liable for $2 billion. No? Liable sila sa mga victims ng mga violations nila ng human rights. We don't have the time to discuss each of these cases. So I reiterate, if you want to read this, this is your proof, okay? I-print ninyo at ipakita nyo sa mukha ng nagsasabi sa inyo Ano mong proof that the Marcoses did wrong? Ito po. 9 outstanding judgments against Marcos, yung tax evasion, okay, ni Bongbong Marcos. But take note, in order to allow Bongbong to run for president, he cannot be convicted of a crime. Okay? So, ano ang naging change yung original judgment, at ang nangyari ay he is only liable to pay his back taxes, and he is only guilty of failing to file income tax returns. He is not guilty of tax evasion. But this is where law and morality separate. Because morality would say, isn't that one and the same thing? If you failed to file your income tax return and therefore did not pay your taxes, then isn't that equal to tax evasion? And itong tanong ko sa inyo, for someone as rich as Bongbong Marcos, who can afford any lawyer he wants, and for someone like Bongbong Marcos, who has a whole staff assisting him in everything in his life, how can you believe that for certain years, they just forgot to file his income tax returns? Ano ang itinatago nila? Kasi yung income tax return ni Bongbong, hindi nila ma-reconcile yun sa yaman niya, sa tunay na yaman niya, at doon sa tax returns. Yun ang katotohanan. Kaya hindi nila final. And those were the years 1981, 82, 83, 84, 85. Kasi during those years, siya yung puppet chairman na ginawa ni Marcos to be chairman of Philcomsat, no? One of these the satellite technology company. And how old was Bongbong then? He was 23 years old. Sino, karamihan sa inyo ang 23 years old na pwedeng maging chairman ng isang company like Philcomsat and be able to draw an $84,000 a month salary? Sino ang gustong mag-earn ng $84,000 a month sa inyo? 23-year-old boy who didn't even graduate from college was earning that much. It was one of the companies sequestered by Marcos, and then he appropriated it to himself. And then, like he appointed his own wife, he appointed his own son. And then he appointed him, Bongbong Marcos became vice governor of Ilocos Norte when he was barely out of his teens, no? Naging vice governor siya. Ang governor was his auntie. Tapos yung auntie niya, during her term, early in her term, she backed out as governor for health reasons. So anong nangyari? Naging governor si Bongbong Marcos. Kasi vice governor siya. Okay? So, puppet governor, puppet siyang chairman of a big company, And then the other thing is the indictment against the Marcoses in the Philippine courts for payment of the Marcos estate. Yung naging billion, 23 billion, naging 203 billion pesos na with penalties and interest. Kasi for 30 years, mga kababayan ko, 30 years pinabayaan nila na hindi magbayad ang mga Marcos. 30 years! Paano nangyari yun? Final and executory na yung judgment against them, papaanong na-escape ng mga Marcos na hindi magbayad ng taxes? Pwede ba ninyong ma-take yun? Is that conscionable for you? Is that okay with you na kayo nagbabayad ng taxes regularly, every year? Ang mga Marcos na pinakamayaman na pamilya, hindi lang sa Pilipinas, pero sa mundo, ay hindi nagbabayad ng taxes nila at pinabayaan ng gobyerno ninyo na hindi sila magbayad for 30 years. Ano ang result kung maging presidente si Bongbong. Ang gagawin niya ay he will just instruct the BIR not to resend the demand letters, because note, if you don't send demand letters to the person who should pay the taxes, then the statute of limitations will run, and then the violation, the wrongdoing becomes null and void at the expiration of 5 years. So how long is the term of a Philippine president? Tell me. Hindi ba 5 years? Oh, so Bongbong Marcos as head, chief executive of the Philippine government, can simply instruct the BIR, who will be under him, don't send those demand letters to my family. And it will all go away. That is another result if Bongbong Marcos becomes president. Okay? Okay, ito na. Any drug dealers, crime lords in the audience?
Wala po, pero I just want to share na I'm pretty much excited to part nito because I've mentioned po, ma'am, na I also have work. Work I actually work in the financial sector as a financial advisor po. And this part we actually studied this under the AMLA, Anti-Money Laundering Act. So
Yes.
medyo exciting din po yung details nito.
Okay, ako rin. Ito ang pinaka-exciting part. I had to go through the history first kasi yun yung major theme ng ating webinar, no? Pero I think this is very interesting and I think very amusing, no? This is actually a very entertaining part. Paano mong bubulahin ang buong sambayanang Pilipino? That is really what happened here, no? So, let's start first kasi in everything we have to agree on our terms, no? So let's define what money laundering is. Money laundering is the process used by criminals who have made large sums from illegal activities to clean money and make it look as if it came from a legitimate source. So that's a very simple definition of money laundering, no? Tingnan nyo yung flow chart provided by the United Nations, no? Although this is really addressed to, drug crimes and organized crime, really, you can see the whole Marcos regime as organized crime. And the leaders are the Marcoses, and the members of that organized crime ring are their cronies. So this PLI model applies likewise to them. So there are 3 phases in a money laundering scheme. Okay? Phase 1 is called placement. That means placing the cash in the financial system. It's simply depositing the money in a bank account. Pero dahil nga medyo delikado yung sums, napakalaki, they had to set up bank accounts in Switzerland. Dahil sa Switzerland, they had what they called bank secrecy laws. Ibig sabihin nun, they will protect to the best of their ability the names of the true owners of the bank accounts, and they will not agree to reveal. Pero all of this changed because of the Marcoses. Napakalaki ng graft and corruption ng mga Marcos, at saka napaka-scandalous na they succeeded even in changing Switzerland's banking laws. Dahil mismo yung mga Swiss na historically the Swiss are neutral people, they couldn't afford to be neutral anymore when it came to the Marcoses. They had to make a stand. And later I will quickly go over how the Marcoses were able, because of the scandal of their ill-gotten wealth deposited in Swiss banking accounts, how the Swiss banking laws changed. No? So phase 2 ng money laundering is layering, no? Creating multiple layers of shell or dummy companies Anong ibig sabihin ng shell or dummy company? Ibig sabihin nun, pangalan lang yon, paper lang yon, pero hindi yon ang tunay na owner ng account na yon, no? And then later on, kasi hindi lang po ako litigation lawyer. Ako po ay naging corporate at banking lawyer din nung ako ay nag-practice ng law sa Makati. Okay? So, it's I will try to simplify, no, this to describe to you kasi it can get very tricky and very complicated, but I have tried my best to create slides to help you understand in very basic terms what the Marcoses did to steal from you, okay? To steal $10 billion from you. And I tell you, the $10 billion estimate is very conservative. Kasi mamaya, I will show you, as one of the lawyers who helped the very first PCGG through the Office of the Solicitor General, no? I will show you why conservative yon, no? Okay. So, you create shell or dummy companies in tax havens. Anong ibig sabihin ng tax havens? Ito yung mga countries na they advertise themselves. The whole country really depends on an economy of just running real estate, tourist business, and dummy post office box real estate to house dummy company and give them addresses in order to allow those companies to receive mail, notices, etc. And the way they entice companies to register with them, to incorporate with them, is not taxing their income. Okay? So they earn by inviting them to come over and form their companies there, but they don't tax them. Yun ang ibig sabihin ng tax havens, no? So you create multiple layers of shell or dummy companies in tax havens, and then loaning and or transferring the money that you had deposited in your Swiss bank account to these dummy companies. So it's a circular thing. Makita nyo dun sa PLI model na binigay sa atin ng United Nations. Tapos, ang phase 3 ng money laundering is integration. No? What does that mean? It simply means spending the proceeds of your crime. It simply means profiting from your crime. Okay? And in the case of the Marcoses, what did they do? They bought jewelry, luxury goods, real estate, and they invested in seemingly legitimate business, like they bought Harold Square in Manhattan, which is a shopping center. And then the shopping center, they leased the units there. So it looks like a legitimate business, no? But it was not in their name. It was in the name of a holding company para hindi natin ma-discover na sila pala yon ang may-ari ng mga luxurious at tens of millions of dollars worth of luxurious commercial real estate. So that, in simple terms, is money laundering at a glance. Now, let's get to the particulars. Now, pay attention, okay? I'm rather proud of this. Oh, wait, hindi ko pala natapos yung kwento ko tungkol kay Commissioner Ruben Carranza. No, this morning, sabi ko dun sa kaibigan ko, I created these slides that lists all of the judicial decisions against the Marcoses, including all the decisions that are proofs of their ill-gotten wealth. Sabi ko, from all over the world. Would he kindly take a look at them, you know, to see if I committed any errors or inaccuracies? So I have time to correct them before I show them to all of you tonight. Tapos, so Commissioner Carranza, papasalamat po ako sa inyo. Hindi, alam ko na natulog lang po kayo at 5 a.m. pero nung nagising kayo, you still made time to look at my slides. And I'm so happy na according to Commissioner Carranza, including, of course, my friends at the UP College of Law, maraming salamat po sa pagtulong ng aking law classmate, si Attorney Gisela Dizon Reyes na nandoon sa UP College of Law helped me to make sure that I have a comprehensive list of cases that I could compare my list against. At ang sinabi ni Commissioner Coranza, that my list was fine. And not only fine, he learned through my list na yung palang mga kaso na hinandle niya ay, over the years, they evolved and they were reborn. Kasi ang mga Marcos, ito ang insight. No? Kasi mga lawyer yung tatay nila. Si Amy, kahit hindi yan nagtapos sa law, meron ding konting legal training siya. So alam nila. Alam nila paano nilang gamitin ang legal system natin and the inherent delays of our system of justice to their advantage. So ang ginagawa nila, if a decision is issued against them, simple lang yan, mag-appeal sila, magma-motion for reconsideration, they will maximize up to the very end until finally the Philippine Supreme Court, tama na yan, forever, final na, we affirm the judgment of the lower court, you have to pay these estate taxes, you Bongbong Marcos, you have to pay your back taxes, and then etc. No? Pero, kaya nga po, 30 years na, hindi pa nagbabayad yung mga Marcos ng dapat na bayaran nila sa sambayan ng Pilipinas. Okay, back to Marcos Money Laundering 101. I call this the PLI Marcos style. So you have 3 columns there, and you will see na the first column, sabi ko, how the Marcoses got their ill-gotten wealth. The second column is how the Marcoses hid their ill-gotten wealth. And the last column is how the Marcoses spent their ill-gotten wealth. If you are going to superimpose and apply the PLI model of money laundering on this, you will see that the placement and the layering all happens under the second column of how the Marcoses hid their ill-gotten wealth. Yung integration or how they spend the proceeds of their illegal activities are under the spent column, okay? But I included how they got their ill-gotten wealth because I'm sure those who are still incredulous of how the Marcoses have accumulated sums as big as 10 billion. Ang daming mga zero nun, di ba? Pwede mo bang ma-imagine? Hindi ko nga magamit yung calculator ko. If you put 10 billion, hindi magagawa ng calculator yon, di ba? Kasi napakarami ng zeros. So, papaano nilang nakuha yung ill-gotten wealth nila? Diyan makita ninyo, unang-una, kickbacks. Kickbacks and bribes from foreign companies doing business in the Philippines. A second mode is skimming of international donations. Anong ibig sabihin nun? They're setting aside some of the donations and foreign aid that are supposed to be for the benefit of Filipinos. They are taking from that and stashing it away in their secret bank deposits. Okay? Tapos, di ba, ang isa pang sinasabi ni Bongbong at kasi Amy na why will we say sorry for the fact that our father built the Maharlika highway system? You know, because of our father, we have modern roads and bridges. Well, I'm going to tell you. Okay? Because it was the most effective. Construction is one of the biggest ways. Construction projects was one of the biggest ways the Marcoses were able to amass ill-gotten wealth. Because they will not allow any contractor to operate without that contractor paying them a kickback or commission. Okay? At hindi lang yon. I read somewhere, or and I also watched a video of someone who was involved in the construction road projects of the Marcoses, na ang mga roads daw dapat 6 inches thick, okay? Pero hindi. Paano nag-scheme mga Marcos sa mga materials for public projects? Ang ginawa nila, instead of 6 inches, ginawa nilang 3 inches lang yung mga konkreto, yung mga concrete roads. So, anong mangyayari? Pagdating nung next bagyo, wala na, potholes ulit. Kaya di ba ninyo natatandaan na parating potholes ang mga Manila streets? No? Di ba naging joke pa yan, di ba? No? Na butas-butas ang mga streets of Manila. And that was replicated all over the Philippines. Now, there was a big project called the San Juanico Bridge, and I have a slide to explain to you and show to you visually how they got a lot of ill-gotten wealth from the Japanese, no, through the San Juanico Bridge. Okay, I'll get back. So another mode for how the Marcoses got ill-gotten wealth was nothing more simple than direct raiding of the public treasury and government financing institutions. For example, DBP behest loans to crony companies without paying them. So, sasabihin ni Marcos sa DBP, you give this person and this company a loan. These loans will amount into the tens of millions of dollars. But once the loan is given to the crony company, hindi na babayaran niya. So saan pumunta yung pera? DBP alone testified to the fact that after Marcos fled, they had on record $3 billion that they loaned to Marcos crony companies that was never repaid. $3 billion. Kinuha nila ang kayamanan ninyo at iyon napunta na stash abroad. Okay? At saka PNB paid for the foreign education of Amy Marcos and Bongbong Marcos. No? They got $10,000 a month allowance. And then Amy stayed in a mansion in New Jersey. I will show you a picture of that later. Okay, because I'm gonna deal with Amy Marcos in detail and Bongbong Marcos. So see, Amy Marcos, PNB paid for almost $4,500 per semester fee. Tapos hindi pa siya nagtapos. Si Bongbong Marcos, yung Wharton, yung Oxford, hindi pa siya nagtapos. No? Lahat ng perang yun, pera ninyo, no? Ang nagbayad para sa kanila, no? Kanina, yung kaibigan ko was doing a video for Ruben Carranza, and she took a video of 2 houses that Bongbong Marcos occupied in New Jersey while he was studying in the United States or while he was stationed in the United States. But given diplomatic immunity equivalent to that of a high-ranking diplomat, pero hindi naman siya government official, and they had to rent a whole mansion just for his staff, yung mga maid, yung mga cook, yung mga bodyguard niya, may sariling bahay sa New Jersey, okay? And it was PNB who paid for all of that, okay? And then the other mode, how the Marcoses got their ill-gotten wealth, is forced, unlawful, and unethical takeovers. Later, I will show you 2 takeovers of 2 big important companies that will be the perfect examples of an unlawful takeover and one that is, well, not quite unlawful, hindi naman illegal yung ginawa, pero definitely immoral. Okay? Yun yung example ko na where law and morality vary from each other. Okay, so how did the Marcoses hide their ill-gotten wealth? They put up fake name accounts. Ano yung fake name ni Ferdinand? Ang name ni Ferdinand is William Saunders. Si Imelda naman, ang pangalan niya ay Jane Ryan. So nung bago-bago pa lang silang nag-set up ng mga, yung earliest bank accounts nila, yun yung mga pangalan nila. Kung makita ninyo yung interview ni Marcos dun sa In Search of the Marcos Millions, makikita nyo dun, he was very confident. Sabi niya, who said that? Who said that that's my name? How do you know that other people did not just do that without our knowledge? No? Very lawyerly replies, di ba? Kaya lang, ang problema, they found among the Malacanang papers that they left behind. And also, according to the documents that they brought with them to Hawaii, that the US Customs held and then released to the Philippine government. Documents where they show on Malacanang stationery, both Ferdinand and Imelda practicing their signatures for William Saunders and Jane Ryan. Okay? So, si Marcos, lawyer, alam niya it will take time for people to catch up with that evidence. But there is evidence that they are in fact the very same William Saunders and Jane Ryan. Okay? So they set up fake accounts, proxy bank. Ano yung proxy bank accounts? Ginamit nila yung mga pangalan ng mga ibang crony nila. Si Imelda, ginamit niya yung mga pangalan ng mga personal secretaries niya. Si Vilma Bautista, at saka si Fe Generoso Roa, at saka yung isang lawyer nila, si Helen Revilla, as the name holders for their proxy accounts. And they also hid their ill-gotten wealth in the name of multi-layered dummy corporations registered in tax havens, mainly in Liechtenstein, Panama, Netherlands, Antilles, and even in the Grand Cayman. Okay, pero these are the three major destinations that they utilize. Dun sa last column, how the Marxists spent their ill-gotten wealth. I won't spend time on that. You already know that, and we will encounter them later on. So I want to go to this slide now. Okay, take a few seconds to look at this. Okay, hindi naman sa pagmamalaki, pero nagmamalaki na rin ako. I'm very proud of my work here. You will not find this anywhere. This is the only visual representation of the major agents that constitute Marcos's circle of plunder and concealment. Okay? Actually, this is a product of my intellectual work, and it is copyrighted, but I'm releasing it to MASA to do with as they please to help educate our people, no? Because it took me reading hundreds and hundreds of articles para akong history sleuth. Nag-enjoy ako kasi po, para akong detective, no? I'm surrounded by all these documents, by all these news reports, some as old as the 1960s up to the 21st century. I'm reading all of them, tas linilista ko para akong merong wall, and then I started connecting the dots. Who is related to whom? Who owned this? And what did he do? What was their instruction? Parang detective, no? Pag nanonood kayo ng CSI, di ba ganun ang ginagawa ng mga detectives? Yun ang ginawa ko to come up with these slides. And I have quite a few slides to show you. Ngayon, these slides, they're not everybody. It's not a complete list. Kasi wala akong space. Ang gusto ko, i-simplify ko na maipakita ko sa inyo in a very simple way, paano nila kayo ninakawan rather, no? And the ones on top are the major cronies. I will have another slide only focus on cronies after this. Pero I want to show you this circle kasi kompleto yan. Meron silang mga point man, meron silang mga bagman, meron silang yung mga foreign lawyers at saka Swiss bankers dyan. Merong si Imelda, sarili niyang grupo, yung mga Blue Ladies. Ayan, yung retail queen na si Glessy Tantoco, yung mga may-ari ng Rustans. Yung si Vilma Bautista na secretary ni Imelda, siya yung nagtago ng yung mga master paintings and artworks. And then she got caught, no? Kasi she tried to sell them on Christie's. The US government caught her and they convicted her for racketeering, no? And for conspiracy to defraud the US government of rightful taxes. Kaya yun, napreso siya, no? Tapos meron pang ibang mga, yung personal secretary ni Imelda na si Fero Jimenez. Okay, lahat ikukwento ko yan. Si BBM, na meron din siyang ahente. He tried to withdraw $213 million from a Swiss bank account. Kaya pag sinasabi ni BBM, anong ill-gotten wealth? Wala akong alam dyan sa ill-gotten wealth na yan. Well, he is complicit by his own actions, not only in knowledge, but in trying to keep that ill-gotten wealth from you. Okay? These are all the conspirators in crony capitalism. Okay. I will get back to some of these personalities because I have specific slides to show how they got, hid, and spent their ill-gotten wealth through the help of each of these people. Okay. I just wanted to give you a visual slide on the major members of Marcus's circle of plunder and concealment. Ito ang mga major cronies na mga Marcoses. Okay? Isa na yan si JP Enrile. He was a multi-purpose crony. For banking, also siya, no? He was a co-owner of many banks with the Marcoses. Si Roberto Benedicto, you know him as the Sugar King, right? Multi-purpose crony din yan. Kasi hindi lang natapos yan sa nagiging Sugar King. He was also owner of sequestered banks, no? And also co-owner for the Marcoses of several other companies. Si Danding Cojuangco, Coconut King yan, no? Also food, kasi San Miguel, di ba? And also banking, UCPB, di ba? Kokoy Romualdez, no? Brother of Imelda. He is the mining king, electricity king, kasi Meralco, binigay sa kanya, no? Multi-purpose crony din yan. Alfonso D. Lim Sr., timber and logging king, no? So if you go through each of these people, you will realize na totoo yung sinabi ni Imelda that they own almost everything in the Philippines by themselves and through these cronies. Because look at the industries in which these cronies operated. You have everything, timber, mining, energy, power, nuclear power plant. Oh, I have a story on that, okay? Yung Bataan nuclear power plant. Si Lucio Tan, tobacco, PAL Airlines, Allied Banking King, no? Ramon, si Floyrendo, Banana King, Banana Plantation King. Oh, ang nakakatuwang kwento dyan, si Manuel Elizalde. Yung mga Elizalde, mga oligarchs yan, mga old oligarchs na mga Pilipino, no? Pero ang nakakatawa dyan, I don't know how he agreed with the Marcoses na siya ang maging front nila. Inassign siya na maging chairman ng Panamin. Alam niyo ba yung Panamin? Yung Panamin is a kind of a cultural organization. But the infamy of Panamin is na-discover daw nila yung Tasaday tribe. Okay? Ang kwento nila, si Manuel Elizalde daw, in behalf of Panamin, discovered this tribe, Philippine tribe, that has never seen modern times, that remained isolated from human civilization, and they lived as God created them, naked, to the butt naked, okay? So the whole world, the whole world was so enamored and was so enchanted by this. So ang nangyari, ang daming mga foreign tourists dumapo sa Pilipinas. We want to see this tribe. Tapos they even pictured si Elizalde with the tribe, you know. And then later on, it was revealed na hoax lang yun. It was a hoax that was thought up by Elizalde with the Marcoses. Pero hindi pa clear sa akin, how did they earn money? Siguro tourism, di ba? Kasi si Imelda and their cronies and Ferdinand and their cronies, they set up hotels. Pero kasi sila mga, ayan, the Enriquez and Panlilio families, hotel and resort kings. Sila yung mga may-ari ng Sulo Hotel, Silahis Hotel, Puerto Azul, Plaza International, yan, no? Oh, of course, kung may foreigners, they can pay in dollars, magsha-shopping sila dun sa Rustans ni Glessy Tantoco. Ano? Okay, si Rudy Cuenca, yan yung ano natin, yan yung construction king natin, yan yung middleman natin sa mga, natin, when I say natin, the Marcoses with the Japanese companies. Okay, and so on and so forth. You can have a copy of this from the Masa group, okay? But, so I will now go to this slide. Now, this is the same, practically the same slide as the got, hid, and spent slide, pero with more detail, okay? And it shows you on the left column all the different modes by which the Marcoses acquired ill-gotten wealth and from whom they acquired these. Tapos sa middle column, yung lahat ng perang yon, they deposited them to the right column, which are banks all over the world, primarily in Swiss bank deposits. Okay, in Swiss banks. Okay. Pero take a look at this. Number one, paano silang yumaman through their cronies? Syempre, gagawin kitang crony if you agree to give me profit sharing from what you will earn kasi binigay ko sa'yo yung sequestered company. Diba? So, for example, Benedicto's profits from sugar monopoly, from acquiring a sugar monopoly due to presidential decrees that Marcos declared, went to a special fund in Malacanang, completely subject to Marcos's special, to his disposition. So yon, pumunta sa, makita niyo yung cursor ko, pumunta sa bangko sa Swiss banks. Number two, mga service providers, tulad ng mga Japanese companies who helped build San Juanico Bridge, you know, who built some of the roads in the Philippines, including, by the way, Korean companies, because I remember this, when I was in high school, Korean companies were hard to build MacArthur Highway, which is just right in front of my parents' house in Angeles City. At mga Koreano yung mga yon. So I'm sure involved din ang mga Koreans. So you have different kinds of companies. Ngayon, in order to do business in the Philippines, you have to agree first with Benedicto, in the case of the Japanese, who was also the Philippine ambassador to Japan at that time, to pay him or the Marcoses 15% to 26% kickbacks. So, for example, in the building of San Juanico Bridge, no? Ang gagawin nila, mamaya I'll show you a slide on this. Because of this, they were able to deposit $400,000 to $800,000 every 2 weeks to Marcos Swiss bank accounts. And in the case of the Bataan nuclear power plant, it amounted in the end to $22 billion na hindi man lamang ginamit ni minsan ang Bataan nuclear power plant na yan. Ang payoff sa mga Marcos ay $80 million. So yon, pumasok din sa Swiss bank accounts, no, ni sino yung ating crony sa Bataan, si Decini, Herminio Decini, pocketed $500 million alone, you know, from everything, from start to finish for the Bataan nuclear power plant. Tapos, number 3, skimming foreign aid, loans, and war repatriations. Yung foreign aid na binigay ng USA, di ba natatandaan nyo, may US Philippines Military Defense Aid Fund. The US was giving the Philippines $500 million a year for the use of the US bases in the Philippines, no? Yan, kinuha din ng mga Marcos yon. Or in-skim nila para hindi naman masyadong halata na what, you know. So one way to steal is you don't take everything, di ba? But accumulated over time, that means a lot then, di ba? Ito ang pinaka-unconscionable that I found out. That Marcos and Benedicto used and appropriated unto themselves the $500 million paid by Japan to the Filipino people as war repatriations for World War II. 500 million went to Benedicto, and 2 million of that went to a Marcos Foundation that was set up to especially benefit Bongbong Marcos. That $2 million went to a foundation that over time, yung 2 million na yon, naging $42 million. Kasi, syempre, nag-i-increase yung valuation, no? Yung if you invest that, nag-i-increase yung capital mo. So, naging $42 million. No? Ngayon, yung UNICEF, WHO aid, nasabi na natin, pumunta sa account ni Imelda to buy diamonds in London. No? Bumili siya ng Harry Winston jewelry. Di ba? At saka yung mga ibang jewelry na mga royalty. So pagsuot niya yung jewelry, yung para bang inanoint na siya as a queen. Di ba? Number 4, fake government bank loans. So ang modus operandi ng mga government banks is when Marcos tells them, give a loan to my crony, they cannot say no. And if Marcos signs a statement that this is a viable project, they cannot dare oppose that. So, for example, DBP gave a loan for a steel mill to a Marcos crony. Nung nag-flee na yung mga Marcos sa Hawaii, DPP did an accounting of their portfolios, and they were trying to look Saan ba pumunta yung, I forgot how much the steel mill was, but it was tens of millions of dollars, $100 million. Saan ba pumunta yung linon nating $100 million sa isang steel mill na to? Hinanap na nila ng hinanap yung steel mill, hindi nila mahanap kasi it was never built. So, pinakit din nila yung $100 million, no? So, and then the government banks were also used by the Marcoses to guarantee the Marcos foundations and cronies' other projects. Number 5, proceeds of ill-gotten assets. As we already discussed, they bought commercial real estate in New York and all over the world. They have mansions all over the world. Name it, they had it. London, Paris, New York, meron pa yata sa Bahamas, and all over the Philippines then, okay? So, all right. Now, let's go. All right. This is my slide on yung MO nila. How did they work the system, okay? So, the conjugal dictatorship of Ferdinand and Imelda, they have a crony named Roberto Benedicto, whom Ferdinand assigned as Philippine ambassador to Japan. Okay? And Imelda said, we're going to build this wonderful, luxurious edifice complexes. You will be proud. We will be the greatest country in Asia. You will be proud of the Marcoses. We will do this for you. At yun naman din ang pinagmamalaki ng mga anak nila ngayon, di ba? Sina Bongbong, Amy, Irene. Yun ang sinasabi nilang rason bakit golden age daw yung panahon ng mga Marcos. Okay, sasabihin ko sa inyo paanong nangyari ito. Okay? Specifically with regards to the Japanese. So, ang proseso ay ganito. So, Ambassador si Benedicto, kung merong isang Japanese company who wants to do business, participate in the construction projects in the Philippines, they cannot go to the Philippines directly. They have to go to him first. So, si Benedicto is the point man. He is the gatekeeper, okay? So the Japanese company, oh, Ambassador Benedicto, we want to do business with you. Oh, you want to do business with us? Wonderful. Please sign this. And what they're signing is that they have to agree to give a kickback or commission to Benedicto that range from anywhere from 15% up to 26% cut or commission based on the total estimated cost of the project. Okay? So, yung mga 26%, it pertained mostly to heavy duty equipment. Okay, once they have that authorization, once they sign the agreement, or once they agree to pay the kickback, then Benedicto will give them authorization. Okay, now you can do business in the Philippines. So, punta sila sa Pilipinas, no? Punta sila sa Pilipinas. Nakikita yung cursor ko? Aaron, nakikita ba yung cursor ko?
Yes po, ma'am. Visible po.
Okay. Okay. So, all right. Sabi ni Marcos, so, I'm gonna build the bridge of love for my beloved wife. Okay? Pasensya na kayo, no? Sarcastic ako. I cannot help myself. Kasi if you occupy my shoes, for 6 weeks, ito yung buhay ko. Okay? Binabasa ko ang lahat ng, I don't have words bad enough to describe this. Okay? So forgive me for using, I don't always use the word evil kasi I don't like using religious terms. Pero I really don't know of any word that is proper to describe what the Marcoses did. It's pure evil, okay? It's pure evil. So I'm sorry if I'm sarcastic. I cannot help myself, because if you know all this evil, if you lived in that evil, if you had to relive all that evil, especially the killing of kids, yung mga bata, pinapatay nila as punishment to their parents who oppose Marcoses. That, what do you call that if not evil? Okay, all right. Okay, punta yung mga Japanese companies sa Pilipinas. I will build the San Juanico Bridge. Okay, all right. So while they're building the San Juanico Bridge, ito namang yung bagman nila, itong si Baltazar Aquino, whom Marcos appointed as Minister of Public Highways, no? Siya yung collector, okay? So while the Japanese are building the bridge, ito naman si Baltazar Aquino will go to Japan. He will collect the money from the Japanese companies, no? Tapos, pupunta siya sa Hong Kong, okay? Dun sa Hong Kong, every 2 weeks, nagdi-deposit siya between $400,000 to $800,000. Pero, kasi yen, no? Yen yung currency ng mga Hapon, di ba? So, he cannot just deposit the yen. He has to exchange them first. So, ang gagawin niya, alam mo, yung gallery view natin is disturbing my cursor here, pero pupunta siya dun sa mga exchange houses sa Hong Kong. He will exchange the yen for dollars, no? Pag nagawa na niya yon, pupunta siya sa mga branches ng mga Swiss banks sa Hong Kong. Okay, tulad ng Credit Suisse, okay, the Swiss Banking Corporation, the Paribas Swiss, and yung SBS is the Swiss Banking Security, no? So, from pag na-deposit na yon sa mga branches ng mga Swiss banks sa Hong Kong, syempre, mare-record na yon sa mga bank accounts nila sa Switzerland. So, ganoon nila kinuha yung kayamanan o ninakaw yung kayamanan, no? Tapos, dineposit nila sa Hong Kong at ganoon na-deposit sa Swiss banks. Kaya, nung inaugurate yung San Juanico Bridge, and by the way, may kwento dyan, no? Kasi nung una, nagkamali, hindi ko alam kung sino nagkamali sila. The San Juanico Bridge was several feet short than was necessary. So they had to correct, no? So they had to spend extra for that. Pero kasi pinagmamadalian, tulad ng ginawa ni Imelda, pinagmadalian niya yung mga trabahador sa MI to finish the Manila International Film Center in time for the Manila International Film Festival that resulted in the death of Filipino workers, 169 buried under quick drying cement. No, pinagmadalian din ni Marcos para maibigay niya ang bridge na to kay Imelda, masabihan niya, this is the bridge of love. Pero bridge of love na at the cost of Filipinos. Okay? So, when you go to San Juanico Bridge, maganda nga naman yung bridge, ano? Pero at that time, it was considered a white elephant because what is the San Juanico Bridge? It only connected 2 small islands. Okay? So there was Leyte at saka, ano ba yung isang island? Yung on the other side. I'm having a mental block. So just answer the question in your minds for me. So it was connecting these 2 islands, and there was very little traffic going on when this bridge was built. Okay? When you consider the hundreds of millions of dollars spent so that Marcos can give his wife the bridge of love, Consider this. We had to borrow the dollars to build this bridge to pay the Japanese companies, and part of that was pocketed by them. No? So, gift nila sa sarili nila yung ninakaw nila sa atin. Okay? Kasi tayo rin yung nagbabayad sa foreign debt. Okay. Malinaw ba yon? Paano nilang ginamit yung San Juanico project? Okay. We're going to how they use Philippine National Bank as their personal piggy bank, okay? And they did this by creation of dummy corporations in order to open PNB bank accounts using Imelda's personal secretaries. So makikita nyo sa slide na ito, no? On the right slide, actually, I got this visual imagery from the PCGG website. Pero hindi masyadong maganda